Greetings, YouTubians, and welcome back to Wayne Sharp World and the first annual Wayne Sharp World Knives of the Year Awards 2020. Now, I think we can all agree 2020 hasn't been the best, but there has been one bright light this year, and a lot of people probably don't care about it, but the ones watching this video, I think, do, and that is the knife industry in 2020, and it's really been great. Not just good, it's been great. In all honesty, it's probably been easily one of, if not the best year for pocket knives and really EDC gear in general ever. It's really starting to explode, and it's been fun. And I have a lot of knives to go over. This is going to be a packed one. I have got 7 categories, 5 being price categories, and a couple other little more singular categories of best type of knife. So without any further ado, I'm going to get into it because this might be a fairly long one too. So let's start out with none other than the first kind of singular category, and that will be the best gentleman's carry of 2020. Now, there's been a few really good ones that I personally really liked. Going back to what I said earlier, there's been so many good knives, I wanted to spread them out. So, a knife you see here or in the next category could have easily been in one of the price categories for best overall. Not saying they're not. I wanted to spread the love. I wanted to get as much out there as I could, while at the same time, being fair and staying honest to my true opinion and judgment of each knife. So, let's start off with this. For the best gentleman's carry of 2020, we have none other than the Finch knives, model 1929. And there's, like I said before, the other 2 knives you're going to see here in the list, but this one kind of stuck out to me as a gentleman's carry for a couple things. You had options of your scale materials from wood to carbon fiber to G10. And I have to say, this carbon fiber, this knife just does a great job of the carbon fiber kind of keeping it looking fresh and new, but then the overall design and blade shape really kind of gives it that traditional look. So it was really impressive on a lot of levels. It's also a smaller blade, so it meets pretty much almost every state's knife carry laws of how long the blade can be. This is well under 3 inches. I want to say this is like 2.6, 2.5, something like that. 154 cm steel. And just, this was a really, Finch in general, Finch Knives was a very interesting brand this year. They really kind of busted onto the scene. They are based in Kansas. Their knives are produced out of China. But regardless, you don't lose any quality with the Chinese production. This is a very nice piece. It was coming in at $115, so it was also, not cheap by any means, but, if you're into the knife world, $115 really isn't that bad at all for a decent knife. And this is a very decent knife. It's a very nice knife. I carried this a lot, especially, it's just great for a casual day or something where you're just kind of kicking it around running errands or whatnot. And it's, like I said before, it's a gentleman's carry. It's small, it's not too intimidating, carries nice and low, and just a very nice traditional style of knife. Very nice design, with a very good action. Pops right out. The lighter, smaller blade flings out no problem, and you have the liner lock there, or a subframe lock. That's probably what some people call a subframe lock, not necessarily a liner, since part of the frame is coming in there. Very nice detent. Really no complaints with this guy whatsoever. Very nice little carry and great for an EDC gentleman's carry. That being the Finch model 1929. Now let's move right along. We have one more singular category, and this is a good one for me. This knife was one of my favorites of the year. I could have put this in a lot of categories, but this here is going to be the best 5th pocket knife. Now, in case anyone by some chance doesn't know, your 5th pocket is, of course, that small little pocket, usually on the right side of your jeans, that you can put a pocket watch or all coins, all sorts of different things in that small little pocket. And some knives are just smaller and they fit in there really well. And the best one this is not just for this year, in my opinion, this is the best one ever. This is the CJRB Maileah. I love this knife. It is perfectly small. It's super fidgety, which, I mean, anyone that has been following this channel or is, knows my style on knives, I like unique designs, and I love a good fidget factor, and you have that. You have the thumb deployment. You have the middle finger deployment, which I was really hoping I wouldn't botch a flip on any knives in this episode because it's, a big celebration, but of course I did it. So there we go. The middle finger flip, and then of course it's a front flipper, and everyone knows how much I love front flippers, and it comes right out. This was designed by Swags, a very talented and I think up-and-coming designer. She just had her second release come out that I reviewed just a few days ago, the Kizer Swayback. But this one is by far my favorite from her. I managed to get my hands on a prototype, and this is the actual production model, just as good as the prototype, just as smooth. Of course, no blade play. None of these knives you're going to see here has any blade play, any off-centering. They're going to be pretty spot on, and this is no exception. Excellent blade centering, and just a very nice compact package with a very nice deep carry pocket clip. You put this in your fifth pocket, it disappears. The only person that knows you have it is you, unless they know that clip is going to a knife, because you don't see any of the knife. It basically disappears in your pocket. And it's just a fantastic design, very unique for such a small blade and small handle. It's a solid 3-finger grip with very nice jimping at top to give your thumb some traction. And CJRB also included their new AR RPM 9 steel on this knife, which is kind of a budget version that gives you the best of both worlds from D2's edge retention and strength, but also the corrosion resistance of something like a VG10 or a more stainless steel. And the reviews so far that I've seen, I am not a metallurgist. I don't know the science behind it, so I watch other people's videos on it, and the reviews I've seen so far of the steel has been very, very good. The only thing better about this knife is the price, and that is $34.95, where you can find them. These ones are kind of hard to find. I won't be putting any links in this video. I've said before, I don't like supporting certain retailers over others, but I will list these knives so you guys can go back and look them up and try and find them. There's a blue million places you can find knives on the internet, as I'm sure you all know. But this is a fantastic piece, one of my all-time favorites, especially in the fifth pocket carry, and I just love the fidget factor of it. It's just, I could fidget with it all day. So I'm probably going to be fidgeting with this one a lot tomorrow when my Irish take on Alabama. Maybe a quick game, but hey, you know what? I'm still, for some reason, have a little bit of hope, but we'll see about that. If they win, you can bet your butt I'm going to say something on my next video about it. But regardless, that is the CJRB Maileah. That is the best fifth pocket knife of 2020 and the best fifth pocket knife ever, in my opinion, so far, in my experience. Absolutely fantastic knife. Now let's get into the money categories, the price categories. We're going to start from the lowest to the highest, and we have these ranges right here. We have 50-ish and under, 50-ish to 100, 100 to 150, 150 to 250, and then we're going to bring in the big boys at the very end, the 250 plus, and there are some fantastic blades to showcase here, and we're going to get right into it. Starting with the 50-ish and under category. Now, let's get going. Number 3. Number 3 is well under the 50 mark. That is none other than the QSP Penguin. And this knife kind of made a statement this year because it came out when in competition of CJRB and Civivi. Very affordable, high quality production knives. And these guys got attention because they came out with a price on this guy at $29.66. That is with some really nice denim micarta, which was pretty new. I mean, this was the only knife I can recall this year to the best of my recollection, that came out with denim micarta. And if everyone knows, micarta it's a popular material in the knife world, and denim is a pretty rare one. Even still, I haven't seen a lot with denim micarta. This was a great debut with D2 steel. I carried this guy a lot, and I didn't see any corrosion. I haven't put any type of EDC oil or any type of, anything to help prevent the corrosion. So it's done a very good job of just fighting corrosion in general, which isn't necessarily a strong trait of D2 steel. It's been known to rust a little, but this one has held up very well. And the overall quality construction of this, I mean, if you really pick it apart, you can see some flaws in it, like the screws coming through on the bottom side of the liners and whatnot. But again, we're talking $29.66 for this piece. You can't take that into account when you're talking a knife that cheap. Action is fantastic. Thumb studs were great. You have a very nice, strong working blade, very nice sheep's foot. And just overall, you got the nice deep carry pocket clip with not fully recessed screws, but they're down there pretty well to where they're not going to affect much going in and out of the pocket. And overall, just a very, very impressive offering from QSP, who was really new to the scene. They've come out with a lot other knives this year, but in all honesty, this is still probably my favorite from them. It really is. Maybe it was just that first wow factor and it stuck with me. But for $29.66, if you were really factoring in price to be everything in these rankings, this would be number one. And you did take in quality, because the quality is still good. These other two knives, I just like a little more, just a little more my personal preference. Again, these rankings aren't exactly the end all be all. Of course, this is an opinionated channel, like any YouTube channel for the most part. When you're reviewing something, everyone has personal preferences, but I really did like this one. This was the QSP Penguin, $29.66, and if you want one, you'll have to look a little hard, because they're sold out at a lot of places, but you can get them. They're still pretty easy to get. The denim micarta in particular is a little hard to find, because I think a lot of people really did like that. But regardless, the QSP Penguin. We'll bring all these top three back here in just a second. Now, next up, we have the only tie in the entire video. There's not going to be any other ties, but I had to do this. First, we're going to do the CJRB Ria. And this was kind of a special run by Knife Center. This has the pocketwood scales and a titanium pocket clip. But this guy here came in at like $54.95, but the actual regular retail price for the original base model of these knives, we'll call it, is $31.95, which is, again, excellent. I like this considerably more than the Penguin, just because of its sleekness. This is another one that was a contender for gentleman's carry, best gentleman's carry knife, but this had to be in the overall, because the action is just killer. The design is nice and sleek, and it also is featuring their new AR RPM 9 steel, which is very, very nice. And CJRB in general, I'm telling you guys, CJRB, in my opinion, CJRB kind of kicks the Vivi's butt this year. They didn't come out with as many models, but the ones that they hit on, they really, really hit on. And you're going to see that again here in just a second. But this has just been a fantastic offering. It's great to carry anywhere, from the office to church to every day to wherever you go. This is not an intimidating knife, and it's just a very, very nice knife. A lot of other reviewers talk about the calming effect of wood, how it's not nearly as intimidating as other, it's kind of like dressing something down. And I do agree with that, but I just especially like this one in general, because it just has a very nice feel in hand. It fits my hand very well, and it's a more rather discreet carry. So very, very nice. This is the CJRB Ria. Next up, the number one knife in this category is kind of two knives, but for a justifiable reason, and you probably know which one it is already. That is the CJRB Feldspar. You have the large Feldspar, and you have the small Feldspar. And this is not something you see a lot in the knife world, but you did see it a little more this year, and CJRB was the first to do it. and with a killer model to boot, it was just absolutely fantastic. This is an exclusive from Blade HQ with green micarta, which everyone loves micarta, and it has the, I don't know if it's real brass, but kind of a brash goldish look pivot collar. Just a really nice setup. It goes together real well. It's got the deep carry clips on both of them, and this one has the recessed screws, which I thought was a little odd. I actually like the larger Feldspar more, so I think I'm going to swap those screws out at some point. But yeah, I don't know. I think this actually came out first, so I think they looked at this and said, oh, you know what, we can make it a little better. Here we go. And they definitely did that. But regardless, these are both excellent knives. The action on the large one especially, the detent's pretty strong, but it just flies out, and it almost feels assisted. And you guys know I hate assisted knives, but when it feels assisted but isn't assisted, I like it a lot because it flies out, but then it also just shakes shut very, very easily. The small one also has excellent action. In my opinion, not quite as nice as the big one. I think that just has to do with simple physics. Larger, heavier blade is going to fly out harder than the small blade. So I don't think there's any real... there's no mystery behind that. But regardless, they're both fantastic. So if you live in a state where you have to carry a blade under 3 inches, excellent option. If you like the bigger blades like me, this 3.5-inch option is fantastic as well. The base models of these without the micarta, this for the small version is $34.95, and the large version is $37.95. Now, these particular models, which I don't even know if they're available, they're Blade HQ exclusive, so you would have to go there and check. But at the same time, I think those were $54.95 and $49.95. Don't quote me, but it was somewhere right around that. You can go to Blade HQ and see if they are there, but I don't think they are. And honestly, I haven't checked recently. I've had a lot of other stuff to do lately, but yeah, Blade HQ exclusive. If you like the green micarta, check them out there. If not, you can get the regular base model CJRB Feldspars just about at any major retailer. So there's the Feldspars, and in the middle of my rambling about these knives, I looked down at my table and realized that my tie for second place I didn't list, so I want to bring that up real quick. My bad, guys. Won't do that again because there's no other ties, so I can't screw them up. But this is the Bestech Platypus. This guy is coming in at $52, and this is probably the biggest surprise to everybody on this list. All the other ones I think you guys are going to probably agree with me on, or most of you, or you won't at least have a big issue. This one really kind of flew under the radar. It was released in fall, and I really love it. I really do. When I first got it, I didn't think it was going to be anything special at all. I just got it to review for somebody, but it's such a unique design. It feels fantastic. It fits my hand almost like a glove. There's no hot spots. It feels great. Just your typical D2 steel, but at the same time, a blade that is just made for rather heavy use. And at the same time, the construction. This knife, this is one of the best, in my opinion, one of the best heavy-duty use budget knives you can get. And you can get all sorts of different flavors in the G10 handles. I got this one that is like tan or beige, orange, and black. I think it looks really nice. I like the way they kind of cut the G10 to give it the grainy look or the pattern on it. Really, really nice. And again, the action is just, it's phenomenal on the deployment. Just flies right out. And again, it's just a unique design that just caught my eye, and I liked it even more when I got it in hand. So now that is tie for number 2. So we're going to bring back out the Feldspar here. So from left to right, you have number 1, number 2, and number 3 for the best knives under 50-ish and under. So there you go there. And again, these will be listed in the description of the video. Now let's keep moving along. And when I get up after this video, I'm going to have to be really careful because I have this really organized way of getting rid of these knives to where I just set them under my table here and around my feet. So I'm going to try not to step on them. But if I don't come up with a video in the next, 5 or 6 days, you can just probably assume I had to go to the emergency room and get some stitches on my feet. But hey, whatever. Next up, we have the 50-ish to 100 category. And this, in all honesty, was the dullest category. No, I take that back. The next one is 50-ish to 100 was actually really good. Sorry. Here we go. Let's just get started. Number 3, we have the Kizer Justice. And let me tell you something, guys. If you like a big blade with great action and just a little more of a tactical setup, this is it. This is it. And this guy right now is on sale at Blade HQ for $62. $62 on sale from $69, so you're not saving a whole lot. Even at $69, it was a great price. That's what I paid for it. But $62 is obviously even better. But you have a deep carry pocket clip, a glass breaker, and this little blue line here is kind of in support of police officers. This was designed by an LA police officer, I believe a retired LA police officer. He designed this in honor of his son, who is a current LA police officer. So the blue line here, I'm needless to say what that represents now. This is the Kizer Justice, which is, of course, fits the description very well. And just a great overall knife. It's a bigger knife in the pocket, but it still carries really well with the pocket clip. And the action on this guy is just, again, it's Kizer. So you guys know Kizer, they make really good knives, and the big blade just flies out. Just a great knife for heavy duty and EDC use, especially if you're on a budget. Fits really well in the hand too. I think any size hand would like this knife, whether you got big, small, or medium hands. It's just going to fit really well, and you have a lot of blade to work with. And at this price point and the overall design of the knife, it kind of reminded me of, like, I think in my review I called this the poor man's Sebenza, because I just, not to compare it to Chris Reeves by any means, but the blade shape just kind of, for a second, made me think of a Sebenza, which, is always awesome when you're talking about a $500 knife. But that is the Kizer Justice at number 3. Number 2, we have another really good one, especially one that I liked a little more. This was the Real Steel Rokot from Real Steel, and it is, again, a bigger, fun, fidgety knife that is designed by Ivan D. Brigantis. And it just has a good touch of a lot of things on this knife. The dots and lines on the pocket clip here are Morse code for his name. So very, very unique. A good way to put yourself out there without being arrogant about it, and without being kind of, if it just had his name there, that would not be very. It just wouldn't be very attractive, I think, to most collectors or enthusiasts or your knife users. But doing it this way gives it a nice, simple design, and also is a good touch of him. So I like that a lot. What I like even more about this is the blade shape, that fall shut action, and it's also a front flipper that I didn't successfully front flip. It's hard when you're working behind the camera, guys. But that one came right out, and again, it's a bigger blade shape, fits very well in hand, doesn't have much of a finger guard here on the blade, but you also have a really good grippy texture on the G10 that I like a lot. Again, the action's great. The thumb studs work just as great as the front flipper. In all honesty, the thumb studs probably work a little better than the front flipper. But again, if I can front flip it, I probably am. You can also spidey flick it with your middle finger. Just a great knife coming in at $72. And it also has N690 steel, which is a great steel in my opinion. Excellent steel for EDC use. And I think a lot of people would agree on that. But this was just a very nice design. Again, unique but sleek. I think a lot of people would like the design of this knife, and I personally really, really like this knife. That's why it's number 2 on this list of 50 to 100. And next up, the number 1 knife in the 50-ish to 100 category, none other. If you guys already saw my video for best knives of all time under $100, this is obviously going to be it because it came out this year. The Ferrum Forge Stinger. I call this the tactical gentleman's carry, and I'm sticking to it. It just has a very nice, sleek design with a perfect pocket clip that is short, discreet, disappears in the pocket, no hot spot. If anyone knows Ferrum Forge at all, you know the ergonomics on their knives are some of the best. The Vox and Ferrum Forge are probably the two best ergonomic related knives, or the best knives with the best ergos. I'm getting ahead of myself. But this knife just feels fantastic in hand. It has kind of that tactical, aggressive look to it, but at the same time, it's not real big. I want to say this blade is like it's like the actual cutting edge is definitely under 3 inches, right under 3 inches, but just overall fits fantastically in hand. Just enough jimping to feel it, and again the action. All these knives have great action, but this one especially comes right out with a very nice click. It's no mushy or slow reaction on the deployment, very snappy, and just a very, very, very nice piece. Some people are super talented. They can spidey flick the fuller here. I can't do that. I'm not even going to try, but there is a fuller there. So if you have good nails, unlike me, you might be able to spidey flick this, but the flipper works plenty well enough, and it just fits like a dream in your hand. And also using Nitro V steel, which is the only knife, one of the very few knives in all of 2020, and really anytime recently, you're going to see Nitro V steel on. It's kind of like a it's a newer steel. It boasts good edge retention, good corrosion resistance. I read somewhere where it was used for steels on diving knives, so they have to be really corrosion resistant. But very, very interesting steel I don't know a lot about, but people seem to be loving it, and this is a rather hard knife to find. I think the only place you can find this is on eBay, and then you're going to be paying probably more than you want to. But when these are available, they're $90. I would like to think that Ferrum Forge will at some point make another run of these, because they're just way too hot not to. It would be pretty easy money for them. So I would anticipate at some point another run coming. But right now, these are not available. When they are, they're $90. And that is the Ferrum Forge Stinger. So here is your number 1. Here is your number 2. And here is your number 3 for the best knives in the 50-ish to 100 category of 2020. Now let's keep moving along. Next up, as I was saying, one of the more less exciting categories of the year, but I will say number 1 really saved this category, because when this knife came out, I definitely threw all the other, I threw the number 1 down to number 2, number 3 just kind of went away, and let's get started with the current number 3, which is none other than the notorious Cold Steel 4MAX Scout. Now, if anyone knows why I call this notorious, you probably watched the video where I cut my thumb with this thing when I was trying to close it. This is a thick blade. You know, sometimes I use the term, I wouldn't go cut down a tree with this knife, but with this knife, I could go cut down a tree. And you know what? For $110.49, it's a hell of a lot less than a chainsaw. But this knife is just a beast of a knife. Ounce for price, it is the best knife you can get, because it is just a beast. It is a 4-inch blade. It is made to beat on and absolutely abuse, and more so just for fun. I mean, it was one of the most interesting knives to come out of 2020. It was a very early release in 2020, and it's just fun. It carries well for the size. It's not the best carrying knife by any means. Of all these knives, it probably carries the worst, but that's what you get when you have I don't have my scale with me, but it's probably like anywhere from 6 to 8 ounces, 10 ounces. I'd have to just weigh it again. You'll have to look up the specs. I'm not the best at judging it by hand, but it's just a tank, an absolute tank. Super solid liners with that big steel there in the triad lock. One of the strongest locks in the entire knife industry. A Jason Demko design. You will see more of Jason Demko later in this video. but just a fantastic offering. AUS-10A stainless steel, made in Taiwan. Everyone knows how well Cold Steel does their heat treating on their blades, and they always have screaming sharp edges out of the box. And even with this thick of a blade, it still has a very, very, very workable edge. You can do a lot of cutting tasks with this knife, and you can probably just force a lot of cutting tasks with this knife because you can choke up if you even want to get a little closer to do some detail work with this hoss, or you can just kind of hold it back and, like I said, go cut a tree down because it's just massive. But it had to be on this list because I really do love it. And just for the record here, let me there. I'm gonna close it without cutting myself. There we go. No Band-Aids needed for this one. So we're going to set this one down here, and we're going to move on to number 2. And that we're going from the biggest to one of the smallest with the Banter. And this was originally going to be number 1. And this is a great knife. For $108, you have a much better steel in S35VN. You have that premium quality. Everyone knows is one of the best Chinese knife manufacturers. Their quality is as good as any. And it's just a great design from the one and only Ben Peterson, who used to, I don't know exactly what he did at Blade HQ, but he was the face of Blade HQ. And when he left Blade HQ, he started this little project with and it came out about, I think, mid-year this year. And it's just a fantastic little knife. It's not the most attractive. It's not there's really nothing that it's the best at, but it has great action. It carries great in your pocket. It literally disappears with that deep carry clip, fully recessed screws. Ben put the Ben touch on this. It's the short blade, so you can do your detail cuts. It's got the perfect clip. It's got the nice steel, and it's got the somewhat affordable price, $108. I would have liked to see this under $100, just because Ben always called himself a cheap sucker, and anything under $100 is always better than anything over $100, just for the initial the saying it. $108 compared to $98. That's a pretty big difference, but whatever, just my opinion. Regardless, still a great knife, still deserving of the number 2 spot. That is the Banter. And now this one here stole the show. This is none other than the Sun TS262. This is designed by Tepe, and this knife here really made this category because this was a boring category until this knife came along. It's just, it's unique. The action, it's probably the best action on a Tucson I've ever had. You can do all sorts of flipping on the blade, from front flip to your index pull around flip to your middle finger flick. That, again, I botched because space, but there we go. And it's just a great, great knife. Tucson is not the easiest type of knives to get because you got to play the eBay game. I did manage to snag this one off eBay for $124.50, and they go anywhere from that price up to, I think I heard someone paid $145 for this model. So they're constantly fluctuating. After some solid reviews of this, prices go up. But again, for $124.50 and even really $150, there's no arguing with the M390 steel. If I can find it somewhere on here. Oh yeah, there it is. It's got M390 steel. It's got that awesome Tepe Designs Maker's Mark. And it's just a very useful sheep's foot blade with excellent ergonomics. And you guys have already seen the fantastic action on this piece. Fall shut. You got to be careful when you're closing this guy, though, because when it comes down, that tip there, if you let it fall down too hard, it can get you. I haven't cut myself yet. Sometimes it hits my finger, and I'm like, oh, that's going to bleed, and it doesn't. So, hey, so far, I haven't drawn blood with this knife, so there's a lot to be said for that, especially when I'm the one using it. But regardless, this was a great knife. On this knife, I said a lot of good things about it, and a commenter, I don't know if he was a subscriber or just a little YouTube troll or whatever, but his comment was, does China pay you to review their knives, and have you ever slept with a woman? And No, China does not pay me to review their knives. If they would, I'd still review them. I would just be honest and tell you what I really think about them. And as for, have I ever had sex with a woman? Well, you know what? I don't know. We're still working on that. But I'm not going to review that when the time comes. So we're going to leave that one alone. But that was funny. It made me giggle. So regardless, there's that. And there is the Sun TS262 from Tepe. Easily the best knife in this category. Easily. Try to find one on eBay. I don't think you'd be disappointed. All right, we are at our last two categories, and these next two are obviously, you guys know, as the price increases, so does the wow factor, and not always the quality. You know, some of these knives have the knives that you've seen already have fantastic quality, but you do start to notice a little difference when it comes to, you know, what you're getting for what you pay. And let's go. Number 3, 150 to 250. Number 3, we're starting with the Giant Mouse Ace Grand. And there was nothing grand about that initial flip. There we go. The Giant Mouse Ace Grand, a Jesper Voxness design. I say it every time I hold one of those knives. He's one of my favorite designers, so yeah, I might be a little biased, but it's for good reason, because you're never disappointed. You're just never disappointed. You always have fantastic ergos, an attractive design, and this one happens to have very good steel with Elmax steel, and it's just a very solid knife. It's not a small knife. It's actually one of my more favorable size knives. The blade is coming in at, I believe, 3.35-ish inches, something like that. Very nice deployment hole. Elmax is a very strong steel. It has a nice deep carry pocket clip. Excellent micarta that shows very nice, that micarta grain, I call it. It looks really nice. It patinas well, and it just gives the knife a really good, I guess you'd call it personality. It definitely has kind of that sailor feel to it, in my opinion. Someone out on the ocean or someone working on the docks would be carrying a knife like this, because it's made to work with, and it has very nice jimping up here, like any Giant Mouse or Fox knife does. So you can really put your thumb up there and bear down on your cuts, like they always say. And it's just a very, very attractive blade design too. One of my more favorable blade designs of the year. That is the Giant Mouse Ace Grand. And next up, at number 2, we have, again, one I raved about. This is the Kizer Genie. And again, you guys know why I'm raving about it. It's a fidget master. It is nice and slim. It carries in the pocket very well with kind of a unique pocket clip I had to get used to. Can't say I loved this pocket clip when it first came out on it, but I liked the knife so much, the overall design of the knife. I think I just kind of got to be okay with this. But there's not enough reverse tantos in the knife industry, not in my opinion anyway, and it's just nice and sleek. I think this would also make a fun gentleman's carry. Action is so smooth. Front flipping action is fantastic. And there's just, again, there's a lot of ways to open this. You can even slow roll it if you want to try and be a little more gentlemanly with it. But you can't beat that front flipping action. You can do the index pull. But again, it's just like a magic trick. There it is. Super, super fun knife. This guy is, if you can find it, it's on sale at certain places for $134. That being Blade HQ. The carbon fiber model sold out. They have the titanium model there that I think is $134 as well. But you look all around. I would highly recommend the carbon fiber on this one, because it's like 2 ounces, I think. It's super, super light, 2.3 ounces, something like that. But you barely feel it in your pocket. You really don't feel it in your pocket. And again, for that weight and this length of a blade, which is, I think, right around 3.4 inches, something like that. Maybe even not 3.5. I think 3.3 to 3.4 inches. Just great action, great quality, great design. A great piece. It took a lot to bump this knife out of the number 1 spot. And that just exactly happened when this knife right here came out, which is the Protech Malibu. I mean, what can really be said about this knife? It's Protech going out of their comfort zone. Everyone knows, but for those that may not, Protech makes automatic knives to where this button usually shoots the blade out with a spring. So they're, automatic out the side knives. This is a button lock knife, and the action is just insane. For the first model they ever took on to do this type of action, well, technically they did the button lock, which was a collaboration with Drop, the Mordax, but this is all Protech. This was completely done in the Protech shop, and it's just literally, it's a finger guillotine. But the nice thing is your finger's never going to be in the way of the blade because the button does the closing. There's no liner lock. There's no frame lock. You just push the button, and it falls shut. It's amazing. The centering is perfect. You have CPM 20 CV steel, which I believe is right there. There we go. CPM 20 CV, which I'm sure you guys all know is equivalent to M390. So it's a very strong steel with excellent corrosion resistance and excellent edge retention. It's one of the super steels out there. So you get the complete package. You get a made in the USA. You get excellent quality, premium materials, and just, again, I don't really want to call it innovative because it's not the first button lock. But when Protech does something, they usually do it better than most of the rest. They always nail it, and they did it with this one too. And coming in at $200, $199.95, guys, you get what you pay for, especially when it's made in America. Not cheap to manufacture stuff in America, but regardless, Protech does. They do a fantastic job, and this could easily be overall knife of the year, and it actually is. I would put it second or third in the overall knife of the year of all price categories. We'll get to that later. But this is just an absolutely excellent piece, and it comes in well under our $250 maximum price point too, which is pretty impressive for something that's fully sourced and made in the USA. Fantastic piece, the Protech Malibu. So there we have the Malibu at number 1. We have the Kizer Genie at number 2. And we have the Giant Mouse Ace Grand at number 3 in this category. Now, on to the big boys, as we call them, or at least the big prices. Let's get to the $250 plus category, and man, I'm actually gonna be sort of relieved to get this video done, because now these knives have already been, well, 2 of them have already been sold, so it's going to help me get some funds to support content for the upcoming year, and yeah, just really happy to get rid of these, even though I love all 3 of them. If they weren't so expensive, I'd definitely keep all 3 of them for my collection, but I gotta have money for content. So that out of the side, I guess I didn't need to waste my time saying that. But regardless, here we go. Number 3, the Snecx Mini Buster, and it's absolutely, in my opinion, easily one of the best knives We's ever produced. You have an insane amount of milling inside the scales here, which makes this knife to be incredibly light for what it is. You have full titanium, you have CPM 20 CV steel, you have a Snecx design, and for those that don't know Snecx, a custom knife designer, his knives sell for thousands and thousands of dollars. One of his designs sold for not his design, the actual knife he made sold for about $10,000. Absolutely ridiculous prices on his knives. Not that it's not justified. Knife making is an art, and when you make something from hands to, completely by hand of something like this too, that requires such extreme tolerances, that's justified. You're buying art. You're not, at that point, you're buying a knife, but you're also buying art. And this is obviously I would call it the design is a work of art, but the knife is just production. So that's why it was only coming in at $289. But they we knocked this out of the park when it comes to staying with the Snecx feel and the overall Snecx, the quality and just everything he required. I don't know any of the details. I don't, I don't have any real ins at we, but what I've heard from other people is that the work that went into this, that Snecx demanded to get the quality and overall end result of the product of this knife that he had to have if it was going to have his name on it. And I'd say, I obviously never held a true Snecx made knife because I don't have that much money to spend on knives, and even if I did, it'd be pretty hard to do. But from what I've heard from the people that have experienced the real deal and the production run, they were not disappointed. They were very impressed, and everything about this knife is impressive. The action, a lot of times when a knife has such a minimal flipper tab like this, it can be a real pain to deploy. Not this one. It's butter. It comes out and it goes in so smooth, effortlessly. A very, very call it maybe some type of a new age, almost like a mechanical design. It just has a very, very cool touch to it. An awesome backspacer. Just this knife is, again, it's a hard use knife. It's a hard use knife. Has a nice over travel stop and an extra big detent ball, which I think has a lot to do with the overall feel on deployment. It's very different. It's very, very different in a good way. And I've enjoyed this knife so much. Very deserving to come in at number 3, the Snecx Mini Buster. Now, I was really stuck on this overnight. This one came down to the wire. It really did, because these last 2 knives in this category could both easily be number 1, and I made a last-second decision and flopped the 2 because I went off personal enjoyment and not common sense, something I'm really good at throughout my regular days. So here we go. Number 2 is the Quiet Carry Waypoint. This guy, it sat at number 1 most of the year. This knife is rust-proof, absolutely rust-proof. This is Vanex steel. Marine grade titanium, marine grade screws, everything's marine grade. LC200N liner, which is an extremely corrosion resistant steel as well. You cannot rust this knife. If I ever go somewhere that is humid or wet or, where I'm worried about I could get some corrosion on my knife, this is the knife I bring because I don't have to worry about it. And that's really nice because this knife is $295. So when you pay that much for a knife, you should not have to worry about it rusting on you. You really shouldn't. So I really, really appreciate that about this knife, and just the overall action and design. Quiet Carry has a theme to their knives, and you can probably hear it in the name, Quiet Carry. When you put it in your pocket, they don't really want it to be noticed. They want it to be a very quiet carry, and that's exactly what this is. It's light, it's strong, it's super, super slicey with a nice hollow grind that comes down to a pretty good edge. And the edge retention on Vanex is just absolutely incredible. And again, just a nice neutral design. There's nothing that pops out and is just kind of screams at you. You have kind of the common little 4-dot trademark of Quiet Carry. And just an overall excellent piece. It has a glassy, smooth feel when you're closing it, and deployment is just rockets out. When you close this knife, it's nothing real super special. You wouldn't think it would pop out the way it does, and it's just it deploys effortlessly. You don't even have to think about it. I can sit here and talk to you guys all day and just deploy this knife, and it works. It's great. You can only get these, to the best of my knowledge, from Quiet Carry's website. Just quietcarry.com, I think. You Google them, you'll find them. $295, and they have different flavors of scale handles and styles of scales. They're all still. I think they just came out with some G10. I'll have to look. There's been a lot going on in the past month or so that I haven't been able to keep up to speed on with other life occurrences happening and good stuff going on. But definitely check out Quiet Carry, because this is a fantastic piece, and it took a lot to knock this out of the #1 spot. And it just, I had to do this because this #1 knife, you guys probably know what it is if you've been watching my channel this year. The Demko AD20 from Demko Knives. This is American made. It is an absolute beast of a knife, but also still carries pretty well because it's not extremely thick and it's really not extremely heavy. This knife has a lot of really good things going for it. One thing that is a little hard to get over is the price point at $425. But I'm telling you what, this, when I think of made in America, this is just kind of it for me. You have quality, you have innovation, and you just have a lot of pride in this knife. And Andrew Demko makes, he's one of my other favorite designers. His designs over really just this year especially have, grabbed my attention with everything I've got. They've just been fantastic. And this Shark Lock is fidget bliss. This knife is the Fidget King. I've said it before. The lock alone has so many good qualities to where it's a good thumb ramp, to where it's a good place to put your thumb, or if you choke up, you can put your thumb up on the jimping and you don't feel it. It's not a hot spot. The overall design and thought put into this knife is incredible. It really is, and it just, I can do this all day. And this is not a small blade. This is like a 3.75 inch blade, I think. It's huge. I probably should have had a ruler with me on this because all my notes and everything for all these knives, there's not enough room for them. But there's nothing about this knife I would change. Not even the pocket clip. Really not. I was not a fan of this pocket clip when it came out. It was the only thing I didn't like about the knife, and now I don't hate it. I've accepted it. I've just accepted it because I love this knife so much. One of the few knives I want to put a lanyard on. I don't know why, but I want to put a little lanyard with a cool little lanyard bead on it, just because I don't know. I just want to do it. But all in all, this lock is extremely strong. It's so addictive to fidget with. It's just incredible. It really is. These are hard ones to get to. I'm sure Andrew's going to do plenty additional runs on them. I don't know where you can get these now because they're all over the place. He sells them in small batches to retailers. He sells them, I believe, on his website. He also makes custom models. There's so many things going on around this knife and different ways to get them. You kind of just have to look your own places. But I got this one off Knife Center, and I just happened to hop on at the right time, and there was one available, and it was definitely an impulse buy, but one of those impulse buys that you just don't regret. There's so many different ways you can deploy the blade, and it's just strong, beefy. It's a tank. It is easily deserving of the #1 spot in the $250 plus category. So there you go, the Andrew Demko at #1, and you have the Quiet Carry Waypoint at #2, and you have the Snecx Mini Buster at #3. So there you are in your $250 plus categories. And now I'm going to do one other thing, and I'm going to do this right here, and there you have the top 3, my 3 favorite knives of the year 2020. By no means the cheapest, but man, I tell you what, if you're a collector enthusiast, I mean, you can't go wrong with any 3 of these knives. They're just absolutely fantastic. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you think. What did I miss? What should have been on here? I personally, I'm not trying to gloat, but I feel like I really nailed this one. I really love all these knives. It's been such a good year. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you've experienced them and what you like about them. And what are you looking forward to in 2021? Because I think there's going to be a lot of fun things coming. I've got a video coming up on that, on kind of like my goals and hopes and wishes for the pocket knife year of 2021. And hopefully it gets a little better. This is going to be a hard year to beat. It's been a great year for knives, and it's been a great first year for this channel. This has been the first 6 months of this channel, and in 6 months, I've picked up over 2,800 subscribers, and I want to thank each and every one of you. I hope every one of you guys watch this, guys and girls. I have female followers and male followers. I thank you guys so much. It's been so much fun. I'm going to keep it coming. I'm going to let you know my plans and everything in an upcoming episode for 2021. And I'm just super, super excited to take it on. And it's been a real fun last 6 months. So with that being said, thank you all so much. I hope you have a safe, happy, and healthy New Year's Eve. And I hope to see and hear from all of you guys in 2021. Take care. And until the next one, I'm out.